Okay, so I'm basically going to talk a little bit about the referendum and initiative and how they're different, similarities, pros and cons, stuff like that. So a referendum is a decision for the General Assembly to put on a bill on the ballot. An initiative is when citizens get signatures and get to make the decision to put it on the ballot or to be voted on. An initiative is a method by which the voters may propose new laws or amend existing laws by gathering signatures of registered voters to place the issue on the ballot. The person or organization sponsoring the initiative must file these signatures with the Secretary of State at least 4 months prior to the next general election. If the person or organization submits enough valid signatures, the proposed statute or constitutional amendment will be placed on the next general election ballot. A yes vote enacts a new law or amendment, whereas a no retains existing laws. In contrast, a referendum is a method by which voters may veto a law by gathering signatures of, again, registered voters to be placed on the issue of the ballot. The person or organization seeking the referendum must file these signatures with the Secretary of State within 90 days of when the legislator then enacts the House or Senate bill in question, adjourns since dying for the year. If the person or organization submits enough valid signatures, the bill will be placed on the next general election ballot. A yes vote allows the law to go in effect, whereas a no vote essentially constitutes a citizen's veto and prevents the bill from going into effect. So a little bit about how they were created. An initiative was created in 1930. And it was then passed on House Bill number 653 that provided for the operation of initiative and referendums. This bill outlined the procedures and roles of the Office of Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and courts. And then part played by county auditors and other officials. Now, a referendum was proposed by Thomas Jefferson in 1955 in the Virginia State Constitution. He believed that citizens were capable of being leaders and that they should be agree upon, approve, or deny changes to laws. The referendum is not added to the state constitution. However, Jefferson was unable to avoid the process because he went to Continental Congress 1 year after legislation. The referendum was proposed to Virginia delegates. Georgia's delegates gathered in Savannah to draft a new state constitution. An addition was suggested. Amendments could be added to the Constitution once a petition was signed by the majority of voters in each country called for a convention. Through the process was never used and ultimately deleted from the Constitution, Georgia delegates were the first to conceive of a referendum process for state citizens. A little bit about how they're kind of compare and contrast. Basically, the referendum and the initiative, they both depend on voters. Both can be disapproved and by law that is passed by legislation, or remove an elected official from the office. So basically, they kind of have to go through the same steps and kind of chain of command when it comes to disapproving a law or approving it. By basically gathering votes, right? So registered voters. And they're different because an initiative kind of puts the power and control into the voters' hands. So it allows voters to put a proposed law on a ballot for a public approval, whereas a referendum allows citizens to place a recently passed law on the ballot, allowing voters to approve or reject the measure. So kind of the benefits of an initiative is there's better policy, better tax policy, higher voter turnout, because studies have consistently shown that entrusting citizens with the ballot initiative progress results in more people voting because they have control. We just naturally like control. So, but the only downfall and disadvantage of that is that they result in badly drafted laws. Um, it is argued that the failure to use expertise provided by government lawyers and officials who are familiar with the drafting process leads to laws that can be meaningless and ineffective, or have a redrafted because individuals or lawyers who drafted the measure are not experienced in legislative drafting. So a little bit more about the how initiative and referendums support the idea of direct democracy that is kind of outlined in the Arizona Constitution. Well, a direct democracy is a system in which citizens can make laws themselves rather than relying on an elected representative. Through these processes, voters can adopt the change in law and initiative or disapprove the law by legislature or referendum, or remove the elected official from office, a recall. So there are a lot of pros and cons, similarity and differences. But basically the big takeaway and the big thing to remember is that, the initiative gives more power to the people. It allows the people to have the control, whereas, a referendum that really allows for the government to kind of be more in control. Like it's a decision that the General Assembly puts the bill on the ballot, where an initiative is the people are allowed to vote on the ballot. So that's the key takeaway that I got from that anyway.